action figure enthusiasts out there. JC here, and welcome to a Monday edition of TNInews. Now, we've got some news to talk about today, including some more bad news that has rocked the toy world this weekend that we're going to go over. But before we get into that, let's just do a quick roll call, see who's in the house on this fine Monday afternoon. Austin, once again, first one to chime in today. Good to see you, my friend. The Mr. Sugar Productions, Diamond Select Toys, is going out of business. Say it ain't so. Unfortunately, I can't, which is what we're going to be talking about in part today. Jeremy, what is up? Happy Monday to you. Zim is in the house. New week, more toys. Yes, indeed. Alonzo, what's up? Thanks for a chance to win the gift card last week. I was super busy, but I am here today. We are still sitting at 53 action figure enthusiast members as I last checked earlier today. So we just need 7 more and we'll do another giveaway for you guys. And if you want to become an action figure enthusiast, link is in the video description below. We got Somnambul Nation. That's like a mouthful. Been a while since I could catch you live. Greetings. What is up? Good to see you. Figure Fury's in the house. What is up? Turtle Dave is here. Hope you're doing well. Going to take a quick power nap while I wait for the stream to start. Hopefully you're awake now, Turtle Dave. We got John in the house. Good to see you. Lucky Pappy 87. What is up? We've got Angel Motion. Good to see you. Hanzo's in the house. Good to see you. Jay Terran is in the house. Fellow Jay, good to see you. Rick is in the house. Good to see you. Kevin's in the house. Glad to have a rare chance to catch the live. Good to have you here. Phil is in the house as well. So yeah, let's pop over to the news and let's get the bad news out of the way first, I guess. Yesterday, was it yesterday or Saturday? I think it was yesterday. I lost kind of track. But this weekend we got the bad news. Bleeding Cool, which is more of a comic book based website, but they were the first ones to break the news that Diamond Select Toys, not to be confused with Diamond Distributors, Diamond Previews, but Diamond Select Toys is being shut down. So on Friday, I told you guys, the news had just come out on Friday that, you may recall that starting the year, we got the news that Diamond Distributors had declared bankruptcy, and so Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and so they ended up putting their assets up for sale. And there was a bunch of hubbub with that, but finally, the new owners, Universal Distribution and Ad Populum, were the final ones that won the bid to buy the assets of Diamond, and one of those assets, of course, was Diamond Select Toys. So that was all finalized on Friday, and then immediately the new owners, I guess, began laying people off all throughout Diamond. But going back to, specifically to Diamond Select Toys, a former Diamond executive was the first one to take to social media, where they basically said that they had been told by those that were still working there that everyone was essentially let go at Diamond Select Toys and it was being shut down. Since that report came out, I have since confirmed that information with a couple of retailers who also were informed that Diamond Select Toys was shutting down. Zacho, you may be familiar with. He's often the face, the marketing face of Diamond Select Toys, does interviews with a lot of guys on YouTube and stuff. He took to his LinkedIn yesterday and let it be known that he was one of the people that was let go. So what we don't really know at this point is what's going to happen with all the open solicited pre-orders, Will they be canceled? Will they fill any of those orders before completely shutting down? Though, based on the number of layoffs that we're hearing going on within the company, I'm not sure there'd be anyone left to process anything. So, but at this point, we don't have any real information on that. But from people I've talked to, the going thought is they will just be canceled. Now, I don't know what that's going to do for small businesses that took the pre-orders, some of which I think do take, when they take pre-orders, they take payment up front. So they're obviously going to have to cancel those pre-orders, and if any money exchanged hands, that money would have to be returned. I don't know what those businesses, if they paid any money to Diamond for those pre-orders, how easy it will be for them to, get their money back for any canceled orders or things like that. So I don't know, long term, what kind of effect this is going to have on the industry. This is just another blow. This isn't tariff related, but it is, coming at a pretty bad time in the toy industry. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Now, one thing I want to note here. So as I mentioned, one of the two companies that had bought, all the Diamond assets was Ad Populum. And they are actually the same company that owns NECA Toys. So I don't know if they're going to, obviously they're not continuing Diamond Select Toys as a separate entity, or that seems pretty clear at least. But I don't know if they'll try and transfer any of those licenses and products over to NECA Toys. Again, since it's a joint ownership between Ad Populum and this universal distribution, I don't know how any of that could or would work, but I could, possibly see NECA ending up with possibly some of the licenses that the Diamond Select Toys was doing. Muppets is one that I think NECA, especially with their Sesame Street Ultimate line, would be a great pickup for NECA. Which, by the way, just a little bit off topic, but Sesame Street, it was announced today, will be moving to Netflix. They will also be here in the United States, be showing episodes on PBS. HBO had previously picked up Sesame Street, but then earlier this, or I guess it was last year, that they decided not to move forward with Sesame Street. But now it looks like Sesame Street's going to end up on Netflix. So just throwing that out there. But anyway, so Muppets would be kind of a nice line to go, match up with, the Muppets that Diamond Select Toys was doing with Sesame Street. I see a lot of people asking about like Invincible, Now remember Jada Toys recently announced that they were going to start doing Invincible products. They've yet to give any specifics on what kind of Invincible products, whether it would include any kind of action figures or anything. But now that, Diamond Select Toys is kind of out of the picture, that might open the door for Jada Toys to start doing Invincible action figures. Or again, NECA maybe would try and pick that up. I don't know. Marvel Select, I see a lot of people asking, like, the Annihilus figure, the Marvel Select figure, will that ever get released? Again, I can't say for sure at this time. It's unclear, but if I was a betting man, I'm going to say, unfortunately, that probably will not see the light of day. But that's something we'll just have to wait and see. And whether somebody else, we talked about back when there were all these rumors that McFarlane was going to grab up the Marvel license, which, I said wasn't going to happen, Marvel Legends license. But I did say that I felt like a similar line to Marvel Select figures would be right up McFarlane's alley if they were able to negotiate and maybe, do a line like that as opposed to the non-articulated statues that they're doing now. But, again, those are all things that over time we'll find out. But right now, the main news is that Diamond Select Toys is, all indications suggest Diamond Select Toys is being shut down. Unfortunately, a lot of people, well, I don't know exactly how many people actually worked at Diamond Select Toys, but, a decent number of people are, found out this weekend that basically they're no longer employed, which always sucks. So, as always with this kind of news, our best wishes to anyone that's lost their job, and hopefully, bigger and better opportunities will will find them and they'll land on their feet. But again, that's really, kind of the big news. I don't like. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm shocked by this in any way. I think the moment Diamond Distributors had declared bankruptcy back in January, I felt kind of like the writing was on the wall here. I know people were wondering if Diamond was going to restructure, if they were going, and even then when it become known that Diamond was essentially selling all their assets off to some the highest bidder in bankruptcy court. Even then, I mean, oftentimes when you see something like that, it usually doesn't bode well for the existing company and the people that work for it. So, I definitely was not shocked by this in any way. In fact, I was kind of keeping my eye out for any kind of news like this once it became known that the current, the new owners had completed the purchase. I didn't know if it was necessarily going to happen this quickly, literally the same day, but I can't say that I'm super shocked by any of this. So again, that's really all I have for you on that front today. As I'm sure in the coming days we will start hearing more details, whether it's through some type of official press release. But like I say, the big question really at this point is, will they try and release any of the product that were in the pipeline that had been solicited, that pre-orders had been open for? Will they try and fill any of that before they essentially completely shut down? And then the next big question I think a lot of people would have is, will any of these licenses be transferred to other companies like a NECA or Jada Toys or anything like that? But as I said, I'm sure we'll, as time goes on, we'll get more details on any of that, and I'll of course be sure to let you guys know. Let's see. Let's move on to. I don't really. Oh yeah. So this is another thing I want to talk to you guys about. So I don't know what the hell is going on with Amazon. I don't know if whoever is making the prices on Amazon products is like drunk or they're just screwing with people or what. But this maximum Hulk figure has, in like the last week or so, has gone up and down in price like at least three different times. So you may recall, was a little over a week ago, Amazon decided to raise the oh my, okay, you can see right here, it's back to 59. I kid you not, like 2 hours ago, this figure was back up at $83, but it is now back down to 59.90. And this is like the third time in just like 24 hours this price has fluctuated. So I don't know what the deal with it is. They raised it at one point to $65 and then lowered it back to 59. And then the other day they raised it to $83. Then they put it back in like 24 hours. Then a few hours later, they put it back to $83. And then, and like I say, before, not too long ago, when I checked this, it was at $83, and now it's literally now back here at $59. So I don't know what is going on with this figure. Now, GameStop raised their prices as well, and they've kept their prices raised. So, like, if you go on GameStop, you'll see the maximum Hulk at $83 now. But that is not the MSRP. Hasbro has not raised their MSRP prices at this time. If they do end up because of the tariffs, well, when the tariffs on China were at 145%, that's what that $83 price tag was based on. And that was something Hasbro was seriously considering doing until, the administration backed off the 145. But there's still a 30% tariff on China right now. And it's always possible things could go back up in 90 days or whatever. So, we'll have to watch that. But Amazon itself has just been like all over the place with some of their prices. The other one that they changed here just recently, the Spider Gamerverse figures have been, right now, they've been sitting pretty consistently since last week at $32. So that recent wave of Gamerverse figures. But another one that just recently changed in price was the Thunderbolt 2-pack with Red Guardian. See, I gotta have to update this story again because literally it's gone back down to the original price, that Hulk figure. But anyway, let's see if where this is at. So yeah, you can see the Thunderbolt 2-pack with Red Guardian and and Yelena is now priced up at $62. The other Thunderbolt 2-pack with US Agent and Sentry is still at its original MSRP price of $49.99. So again, I don't know why one has been raised and the other, and I don't know if this will change again, like in 24 hours or what. Um, but it's really been crazy and sporadic with Amazon and their pricing. I know Amazon uses algorithms sometime with their pricing, but it's just, especially that Hulk, where it's just like up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. It's just been really crazy. What I would say to you is, for the time being, if you ordered these figures, like I'm pretty sure Amazon, if you go order the Maximum Hulk right now, or if you did when it first got released or whatever, I don't think Amazon's going to raise the price on you. So I think if you grabbed it now at the $60, that's what they would charge you, even if they end up raising the price on the site again to 83. At worst, they would contact you and say the price is going to go up. Do you want to keep this pre-order, or do you want to cancel it? And therefore, you wouldn't be any worse for wear. But places like Big Bad Toy Store, if you pre-order whatever you pre-ordered by May 9th, will stay at whatever the original MSRP price was, whereas anything after that could end up going up in cost, based on tariffs and such. So, like, I got an email from Big Bad Toy Store that the order for my Maximum Hulk, which that's where I pre-ordered it from, was going to be processing soon, and that shit, because I pre-ordered it when it first went up originally, that final price should be $60. I shouldn't have to pay anything more. If you went and pre-ordered it off of Big Bad Toy Store today, then you might find that the price goes up a little bit due to the 30% tariff that is currently in place. It wouldn't go up to $83. I talked to Joel briefly about it, and he said Amazon, that's much higher than they would be charging the $83. But it might, again, if you went and pre-ordered the Hulk from like Big Bad Toy Store today, it might end up, when it actually comes in stock, might go up a little bit. But again, really the real weird again, I understand the tariffs causing a lot of chaos and confusion, and causing some people to raise prices. But just the way Amazon's been doing it with its fluctuating so frequently, it's just kind of crazy to me. So anyway, my advice would be, if you see the Maximum Hulk at $63 on Amazon, I wouldn't order it. You probably wouldn't anyway, but I'm just saying, wait and see if it comes back down in price or go somewhere else. I mean, you can go to Hasbro Pulse, and right now all of their figures are still being sold at the original MSRPs. They haven't raised any of their prices on Hasbro Pulse, and I would expect they would honor those prices, even once they ship. Though they did have that disclaimer about the May 9th date, so I suppose they might raise prices, or at least let you know that they're going to. Again, nobody's going to, if you pre-order something from somewhere, nobody's just going to sneak the price up on you and then ship it to you. If somebody decides they want to add costs for tariffs for when the item comes in stock, they will contact you and say, the price has gone up on this since you originally pre-ordered, and you can either keep the order, and we'll charge you the additional amount, or you can cancel the order. But nobody should be like just sneaking in at a higher price and then sending it to you based, if you ordered it at the lower price. One other thing, just real quick, we looks like we finally got some new Hasbro pre-orders coming up. I noticed added to Entertainment Earth's Drop Zone page at the very end of this month. These are just added like in the last 24 hours. So Wednesday, May 28th. I don't know exactly what these are, but just going by the clues that Entertainment Earth has. Gear up, new launches on your way, and you'll want to add these new recruits to your collection. Using words like recruits makes me think G.I. Joe Classified, so it's possible we might be seeing some new G.I. Joe pre-orders on the 28th. Something definitely from Hasbro, but again, just going by the clue, I'm taking that to mean possibly new GI Joe Classified. Then on the 30th, we have additional Hasbro pre-order. What's new? We can't say, but it's really big, and you're probably going to want the whole team. That is making me think Marvel Legends Fantastic Four movie figures. Again, I just giving my deduction based on the clue. I don't know for sure, but when they say whole team here, and we know that there are Fantastic Four Marvel Legend figures coming, we've seen other companies already solicit their Fantastic Four products. Funko, we talked about that last week. Lego. So I would not be surprised if on Friday the 30th, we see Hasbro's Marvel Legend Fantastic Four movie figures, which I assume between now and the 30th, if that is the case, they will have fully revealed them. Probably not with the live stream, though you never know. They might do a live stream, but my guess is that'll just be a reveal online with pictures and stuff. Probably that week. But again, just want to let you know that it does look like, again, definitely it looks like new Hasbro pre-orders. Haven't really been any pre-orders since the first of the month, I think in large part because of everything going on with the tariffs. But there you go. McFarlane, you can see here, that's those Marvel statues. We've talked about that. Looks like several Super 7 pre-orders coming up here. One tomorrow. I don't know exactly what those are, but we'll see pretty soon. Maybe the next round of Thundercats that we saw images leak out for will be coming up here in the near future. But mainly I just want to let you know, keep an eye out for some new Hasbro, and I'm thinking, and again, it is more of a guess than anything, but I'm thinking possibly G.I. Joe Classified and Marvel Legends Fantastic Four at the end of this month. We talked a little bit about this on Friday. We got the teaser. We had seen this on display at WonderCon. But for you Thundercat fans, if you're into 12-inch figures, 1/6 scale, their new Mum-Ra figure is going up for pre-order on the Mondo store starting tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Pre-orders will run through June 20th. Cost of this one is going to be $280. So you get quite a few accessories. You get multiple heads. You get his dog, which also has multiple heads. You get his weapons that you tend to expect from Mum-Ra, multiple faceplates. So again, if you're into 12-inch figures, into Thundercats, this is something you might want to check out. This is the second figure being released in their Thundercats line. Lion-O, of course, being the first one. So at some point, they'll have a version of this available on regular e-tailer websites. But again, starting this week, you'll see it up on the Mondo store website. Mezco has a new set of 5-point articulated figures with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So you can get this at a Big Bad Toy Store, Leatherface. It's just Leatherface. And again, these are 5 points, 4-inch figures, $23.99. But that went out for pre-order today. If you're into Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's one you might want to check out. For you wrestling fans, we've got a new AEW 3-pack that'll be coming to the Jazzware Vault website. This will be going up on May 23rd at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. So this 3-pack is going to include Broken Matt Hardy, Kenny Omega, and Sammy Guevara, based on the Stadium Stampede match, which I've talked about before. I don't really watch AEW. I obviously know Matt Hardy from the Hardy Boys when he was at WWE, but again, I don't really follow AEW, so I've not seen this match. But if you're a fan of AEW in this match, then again, this set will be going up on the Jazzwares Vault website on May 23rd. So we've seen the regular Cyborg. We've seen, I want to say we saw some in-hand blurry images of this platinum figure or gold label figure. But this is the Revenge of Green Lantern version of Cyborg Superman, which apparently is going to be released exclusively at Target. I don't think I've seen any reports of this showing up in store yet. It's not available online yet, so but likely will be showing up soon. I'm sure they'll have the regular Cyborg Superman with it. The regular Cyborg Superman, I assume, will be available at other retailers at some point, but but again, we have this gold label variant that's coming exclusively to Target, at least here in the United States. I don't think there's much else. So I found this interesting. So this is from Playmates Toys. You know, they're doing Power Ranger stuff, Reignition, Mighty Morphin Power Ranger stuff. So this is being dubbed a collector set. It's a 6-pack. You can see the packaging's pretty nice, almost reminiscent of like Lightning Collection figures. However, these are, from what I can tell, these are just the 5-inch figures that they're releasing on normal card backs. 5.25 technically is what they measure at. But, I think these are just the same figures they're releasing on just regular single card backs in this fancy packaging as a 6-pack. So I don't know how this set will be released or where it will be released in the United States. I don't have any price information yet, just these official images. It's just the Power Rangers themselves, 6 of them, but red, blue, yellow, pink, black, and green. But again, I just found it kind of interesting that they've dubbed this a collector's set essentially because of the packaging. Um, but there you go. Like when I first saw this package, it was like, oh, yeah, because they told me at Toy Fair, Playmates did that they weren't really doing collector oriented like a Lightning Collection type line like Hasbro had done. That they were basically sticking to the kid stuff. So when I first saw these images, I was like, oh, wow, maybe they're doing 6-inch figures or something. And then I looked closer and it was like, oh, these are the same figures that I'm pretty sure are on just the regular card backs. Yeah, that I think pretty much brings us up to date. I don't know if we talked about this last week, but these are from Spin Master. These have been hitting physical stores. These 2 on the top here are 6-inch figures. Yeah, I think we talked about this on Friday with these new updated. We had seen the Hot Girl figure, but without wings. But she does in fact have wings. One thing I also, while we're on the subject of Spin Master, so um, we had talked about this set, this 4-pack set that is available at Target, and this little green guy was kind of unknown. It's not really something we had seen before, and we were all speculating what it could be. My first thought was like Martian Manhunter. Somebody suggested it's Brainiac, but and I don't know. I just wanted to. Apparently, it's been named Baby Joey, and the reason why, at least I know this, is MCU collector who you may know, does a lot of Marvel Legend reveals. He posted this video on his Instagram of a find he had. Um, I think this is at a Target store. So these are Todd Mod figures, those vinyl figures. But you can see there's the little green guy. His name Baby Joey. There's the baby Kaiju as well. So again, I don't know what the story behind the little green baby is, or why they're calling it Baby Joey. It's not a name I'm familiar with. Maybe it has some backing in comics. I don't know, but I just found that interesting that whatever this little green baby is, his name is Baby Joey. So I guess when the movie comes out, we'll know more. Also, this is the first time we're seeing these Todd Mod figures. These have not been officially announced, but they're already showing up in stores. I've not seen anybody finding the DC Multiverse Superman movie figures in stores. Maybe overseas, but I don't think anyone's found them in stores here in the U.S. I could be wrong, but I don't recall seeing any buddy finding the McFarlane stuff. And we still have several figures, Lex Luthor, which should also come with the baby kaiju, Robot number 4, and Ultraman that are coming. That whether those are straight up releases, platinum editions, gold label, I'm not sure. A lot of conflicting information on those. All three of those figures have listings on Walmart, not available, and no images, but that would be more of an indication that you will be able to buy them online. But again, McFarlane hasn't given those any details. But I just found that kind of interesting, the whole Baby Joey thing for that green baby, since we were talking about that on Friday. Let's see, what do you guys? Shimal Kumar taking a break, revising for my pharmacy board exam. Hope you. Well, nice that you're taking a break. Good, I can provide you some break, but hopefully that goes well for you and you pass with flying colors. Turtle Dave says that sucks. I really wanted Diamond Select Toys Hobgoblin, which is the best goblin of all the Spider-Man goblins. Yeah, I mean there were some pretty cool Marvel Select figures that they had previewed and solicited and stuff. And again, I can't say 100% certainty that none of that stuff will get released, but right now it's not looking very good. Hi from the UK. Hope you and the family are well. They are, my friend, the mass figure collector. Hopefully things are going well for you there in the UK. Kevin Freeze, glad to have read. I think I read that one, but always good to see new people getting in. I know 3 o'clock's not always convenient for everybody. Unfortunately, there's not one time I think that's necessarily convenient for everybody. And the afternoon tends to be the most convenient for me, which is why I tend to pick this time. But always good to see newer faces along with the familiar ones. Zach seems like a cool guy. Sucks for him and everyone that got hit with the layoffs. Yeah, I don't know how many of you remember Toy Fair magazine. That's really where I think Zach got his foot in the door with toys and stuff. He was one of the editors of Toy Fair magazine. And then I think he went somewhere after Toy Fair kind of folded. He went somewhere else for a short while. But I mean, he's been at Diamond Select, I think, now for like something like 14 years. Sumnable Nation, every Muppet is going to change colors now. Mr. Sugar Productions, also off topic in regards for HBO and Sesame Street. David Slav is worse than cancer. Also wants more invisible figures. I am. I think Jada Toys would do pretty cool Invincible. Like I didn't get the diamond ones, but I really like. I've never read the Invincible comic, but I have been watching the Amazon series, so I could definitely. I would probably. I don't know why I didn't really collect the diamond ones, but if somebody new started a new line of Invincibles, I'd probably pick them up. But like between NECA and Jada, I'm not sure. I think NECA would get, or I think Jada would give us better, sturdier figures. The problem with Jada is like, it would take them forever to get, all the main characters out. Um, but so, there's give and takes with every company. So I don't know who I'd rather see get it at, assuming anyone were to pick it up, if it would be like NECA or Jada Toys right now. And just pure speculation, those would be, if somebody picked that license up, those two would be the most likely suspects to get Invincible. But I'm not sure if I had to pick between NECA or Jada to get that license. I'm not. I think I'd probably lean towards Jada, but it's almost a toss up. Yeah, again, Marvel Select Archangel, Hobgoblin, Annihilus, and those, I mean, we knew that a lot of those figures got obviously delayed. Um, and that's something you often, whenever things start really getting delayed, the Star Trek Enterprise C that they showed a couple of different years at conventions, and then that thing never got released and never got released, and they kept saying it was going to get released, and then it never got released. I was always bummed that never got released, but lucky Poppy 87 just got to stay away from Amazon. They'll suck your wallet. Amazon AI is going haywire. Skynet's pricing stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I won't say it's 100%, but I'm pretty sure it would be illegal if when you pre-ordered something, it was $50, and if they just charged you $83 and shipped it to you, I don't think they're legally allowed to do that. Again, what they can do is come back and say there's been a price change. You can either cancel this order or you can accept the price change, or they can just cancel the order in some cases, but they can't just like go, oh, we listed $50 and now we're charging you $83. Enjoy the figure. That nobody's really allowed to do that. So, I was having a discussion on Facebook about pre-orders, and somebody had suggested, that this was a reason not to pre-order, and I shot back and said this was actually an example of why you should pre-order, because if you had pre-ordered at the original price, that's what you would likely end up paying. That Amazon wasn't going to raise the price on you, at least without letting you know and giving you the option to cancel. At which point, if they did that and you canceled, you wouldn't be any worse off if you just didn't pre-order at all. But Power Turtle Busters, Diamond and Diamond Select Toys, the same thing. Only got those Ghostbusters. They, yes, in that they were owned all by the same company. Diamond Select Toys is a separate entity within Diamond than Diamond Distributor. So Diamond was, started out as the largest comic book distributor in the country for many, many years. Many people claim that Diamond essentially had a monopoly on comic book distribution. That didn't just include comic books, but they, usually when you go into a comic book store and you see toys on the shelves, new toys that is, they ordered those through Diamond distributors, whether it's Hasbro, but Diamond Select Toys was basically Diamond's own toy manufacturer, as opposed to a Hasbro or what have you. So that's kind of how to think of it. So they both were owned under Diamond, but they were separate entities. So Diamond Select Toys being completely shut down isn't the same thing as Diamond Distributors being completely shut down. I don't know if Diamond Distributors is, I can't say that it's not being shut down. I've seen there have been a number of layoffs on that side of the business as well, but I haven't seen anything specifically saying Diamond's Distributors is completely shutting down right now or not. So there are differences between those two things. Same thing, like another question I see, what about Gentle Giant? So Diamond Select Toys several years ago purchased Gentle Giant Studios, who makes, a lot of the Star Wars statues and busts and things like that. So I assume that Gentle Giant, which is now under the Diamond Select Toys umbrella, you know, whether all those people were laid off, I won't say with certainty. Again, technically, I believe Gentle Giant was part of Diamond Select Toys now, but I don't know. I can't answer you if there will be anything that continues from Gentle Giant or how any of that's going to work either. So, um, Diamond Distributors, Diamond had a lot of hats that it wore for various things, because they've just been around so long. They were a dominant force in comics since, I want to say the late 80s, definitely through the 90s and 2000s. But specifically, as far as completely shutting down, we're talking about Diamond Select Toys. But again, we still don't know what they're going to do with the stuff that they had already solicited and places had taken pre-orders for. Chris Allen, not a great time for collecting because of all the uncertainty in the air. Yeah, no, I mean, yes, I mean, definitely. I put it this way: working in the toy industry at this very moment is probably very stressful for a lot of folks. As the consumer, yeah, definitely, as we see prices fluctuate up and down. But hopefully that will all flatline out and that won't have too much of a drastic effect on things. But definitely for those who work in the toy industry, whether it's as retailers, whether it's manufacturers, if you're an employee for one of these companies, I would say it's definitely a very stressful time with all the chaos and everything and uncertainty that is going on within it. Even, I mean, and getting back to the tariffs a little bit, but that affects everybody, large and small. The larger companies like Hasbro, Mattel, those guys, they will be able to weather these storms much more. But the smaller guys, the independent guys, those guys are, it's going to hit them probably a lot harder, especially if things drag out and such, as we've talked about before. His dog, the mama, but some respect on his name. You're right. I forgot his name. I have the Super 7 mama that came with my. I, I've been rewatching Thundercats, like it's on Hulu. So, and I've been trying to lose some weight, so I've been running on the treadmill in the morning. So I'll throw on Thundercat reruns um, while I'm running on the treadmill. But I haven't gotten to any episodes with Mama yet. So I did. I did just recently watch the episode with Driller, and my first, I was like, Super 7 better give us a Driller figure. I don't know how much longer that line, how much life that line has, but I really hope we see Super 7 give us a Driller figure before all is said and done. Chris says, I want the Cyborg Superman, but haven't been able to locate it. I want to get the figure, but Todd is making it difficult. Yes, definitely that one. Because originally that was supposed to be a red platinum figure. Then it looks like it wasn't a red platinum figure. But nobody has taken any specific pre-orders other than maybe GameStop did briefly. But yeah, right now that figure has not been readily available. It seems to me, and I'm only speculating here, but Todd seems to be trying to push people to go into physical stores to find his figures. I'm seeing a lot of instances where figures seem to only be showing up at physical stores and not really being readily available online. And I have a feeling that's some attempt to try and get people to go back into physical stores to buy their action figures. And again, that's just my speculation based on my observations. But yeah, Salome was in the house, but she left. Yep, California peeps always find the stuff first. That's the advantage of living near the shipping ports. The mass figure collector wins new mass figures coming out. Supposed to be, unless something's changed, but This summer, July, originally Big Bad Toy Store here in the United States, at least. Big Bad Toy Store gets first dibs. Pre-orders open in July. Everywhere else, September. So I suspect between July and September, you'll start to see that stuff, unless they were delayed or something because of tariffs or whatever. I would suspect you'll start seeing it late summer, early fall on shelves. After all this time, wouldn't you think that Nihilus figure is pretty far along in development? I was really looking forward to that figure. Yes, but again, like as far as Diamond goes, like if literally everyone in the company has been laid off, who would be left to process it? I don't know. Obviously, things were being delayed. I don't have the figure in front of me, but Diamond owed, when they declared their Chapter 11 bankruptcy at the beginning of the year, Diamond owed a lot of money to a lot of different companies, including places like Hasbro and stuff. So that's why they declared bankruptcy. So I don't know. Obviously, Diamond's a private company. They don't broadcast their dirty laundry out to the public. So I don't know. Even, obviously things are really chaotic now, but I mean, going back to the beginning of this year or even into last year, my guess is things started to get chaotic at Diamond, and things started being put on hold, or as bills weren't getting paid, and probably they owed money to factories and things like that. So, how far, even though it was a long time ago that they solicited that figure, um, how far along it's actually been moving in the production cycle, I really couldn't say. The only reason why at this very moment, and I think other people I've talked to are thinking similarly, of why they don't think anything that hasn't basically shipped or come in stock now won't, is because it seems like there's not really anybody left to do that within the company, because they really didn't waste any time. The new owners really didn't seem to waste any time in laying people off. Now, we could always see something down the road. Remember when DC Direct, the original DC Direct, had a similar situation where they ended up suddenly being shut down essentially, and there was quite a bit of stuff that was in the pipeline that never got released, at least not until later, when McFarlane Toys, kind of picked up the DC Direct stuff, and then they went back and finally released some of that stuff that had been in the pipeline before DC Direct got shut down. So I would never say never, even if like we get the announcement this week that everything that was solicited and up for pre-order from Diamond is canceled. I still wouldn't say never that we might not see some of that stuff released down the road in some shape or form. You just never know. But I also can't tell you how far along in production any of that stuff was, because I just, they don't make that information readily available. What's up, Devils Do? Good to see you, my friend. G is checking in from Toronto. Good to hear from you. Judge Dredd says he knew he was never getting Archangel, which is why he ordered the Marvel Legends one. For me personally, when it came to Marvel Select, I didn't pre-order it, but I would have probably gotten the Annihilus figure if it had come out, or, but I usually only do, for Marvel Select, I only usually get the characters that are bigger that will fit in with the Marvel Legend figures. I don't really collect, for the most part. I have a few, like I have their Taskmaster figure, which I just thought was a really cool figure. So, but usually I only get the ones that kind of fit in with the Marvel Legend ones. Jeremy, wonder if NECA would ever do a reissue of the original Mirage Comics April. I know the version 2 just came out, but wouldn't mind having the first version to go with my original Teenage Mutant Ninja set from NECA. Yeah, I have the original one. I can't. It's not on camera, but it's over on my shelf. I had all those original Mirage NECA figures. I kind of wish I'd never opened them because they go for so much money on the secondary market unopened. But as to your question, I definitely think it's possible they could do some type of reissue. But cartoons and cannabis, that's normally true, yes. But when it comes to these tariffs, I think you, even if they go up temporarily, I do think you would see prices come back down, assuming the tariffs ended up getting removed. Comics says, I still think Thundercats holds up better than Masters of the Universe. Are you talking about the toys, the comic, the cartoon? I don't know. I like them about equal. Well, as far as the cartoon, I like them about equal. Um, I never like Super Seven. Well, that's not true. I'd gotten like I tried getting the Bandai figures. Of course, they never finished. The Team Salome's back. Everybody, just in case you didn't see uh, Salome's butt. But like I never collected the original Thundercat toys. Of course, I didn't really collect the original He-Man toys either. So I watched the cartoons when they originally came out, but I didn't collect the toys for either of those lines. Judge Dredd says work out every day. Um, I'm trying. I've gotten lazy and I'd gotten pretty lazy and put on way more weight than I need to be. Like right now, I started this month, like my goal, like I weigh 200 and was it today? I weigh 245. I started the month at 249. Um, and my goal is to get under 200. Um, so throughout my life, my weight has fluctuated. I got in my late 30s and 40s, I started doing triathlons and Ironmans, and that was probably when I was in the best shape of my life. But it's been many years since I've done a long distance race like that. But like today, I ran 3 miles, um, and I definitely felt it. Yeah. And your body, like when you do the long distance stuff, like I used to do marathons and stuff, like your mind say, oh yeah, I can go out and do 20-mile run. Your body's like tells you a whole different thing. Thank you, man. Thank you for watching, listening, reading the sites, but always appreciate the kind words. What about NECA stuff? Couldn't they oversee finishing the figure? Well, again, I don't know, John. They are separate companies. So it's not like you can just go, okay, let me take over. But certainly I could see a deal worked out where NECA takes over. But again, unless it's an actual license that Diamond owns, like it's their own creation, there also, I'm sure, has to be negotiation with the license holder, not just Diamond Select Toys. I don't know how easy it is to switch a license from one company to the next when something like this happens. But I certainly think down the road, it is possible you could see NECA picking up some of the licenses if they feel like there's enough demand for it and everything. Judge Dredd, what is it? Archangel? Are you talking about the X Force Marvel Legend one? I was actually thinking about the X Force Warpath and X-23, but I mean, usually that's because they're processing orders in a certain order, probably based on when people pre-ordered. So and they possibly didn't get their stock for every order they took. Sometimes orders come in multiple shipments. So it's possible they just haven't gotten to you yet. It's possible they're waiting for another shipment to come in. But that's usually why something like that will happen. Nico just picked up the Shredder Dracula NECA figure, couldn't pass it up in the store. So which one did you get? Because remember, there's 3 different versions. There's the regular version, there's the Target reddish version, and then there's the Walmart bluish version. Um, I, I I think the regular version is the only one that's actually seen release so far. Target had up their version online, but I don't think it ever became available for purchase, at least not yet. But there are 3 different versions of that figure being released. AV Sock Rocker, my Marvel Select Sabretooth is still my definitive one with my Marvel Legends. I did not get that one. That is one that probably, you could justify and have it fit in. I didn't get that. I got the Marvel Legend one, but like I love like their Crimson Dynamo figure. That is by far one of my favorite Diamond Select toy figures. Titanium Man is another good one. Which fit in my opinion, pretty well with the Marvel Legends. Classic. Actually, that's a Mezco. I'm just looking over here on the shelf. Their Red Centurion Iron Man figure. That one doesn't necessarily fit in with Marvel Legends, but so much better than the Marvel Legend one for that armor of Iron Man. So that's a great figure. I think what else? Again, Taskmaster. That's a good one. I mean, I remember like I had the first Marvel Select figures that came out back in the day. I don't know how many of you ever bought like any of those original Marvel Select Spider-Man, the Punisher with the pinball machine. I mean, those look good. The articulation on those early figures were horrible, but they look pretty good. But I still I don't have them out anywhere, but I still actually I may have sold those off. But I used to have those original Marvel Select figures they did back in the day. Jay Taryn, any news on Master? Nothing recent. I actually just got my King Randor figure. That one came from Amazon, so that one just arrived today for me. But I haven't, like, as far as when the next round of pre-orders or anything, I have not heard anything. There's definitely some Mattel pre-orders on Entertainment Earth's Drop Zone page, but I don't know. I don't have a breakdown like when the Cobra Khan figure and some of those go up. I don't know, but hopefully soon. I would expect them to go up fairly soon. John says Thundercats cartoon had way better quality of animation. I agree with. I was noticing that. Like I never really thought about it, especially as a kid. But having been recently rewatching it, there are definitely some some pretty good artwork. Like when Lion-O's doing like holding his sword out and things like that. What I will say, what's kind of funny is like the voice cast. Like you can tell like they kept their voice cast pretty small, and they like you can tell like a lot of the same people doing voices for different characters and stuff. But yes, I agree. The animation was definitely good for the time, at least. Here's my question that like for the first time, I don't know why this. I never thought of this before, but why the heck when they first left Thundera, the Thundercats, Lion-O was a kid, so was Wily Kit and Wily Cat. When they landed on Earth, Lion-O was an adult, and Wily Kit and Wily Cat were still kids. And originally, I thought Wily Kit and Wily Cat were just like small people, like that they did never grew to like a full size for whatever reason, that they weren't necessarily kids. But then as you watch episodes, and there's episodes where like they get grounded and things, you can tell that they are actually still kids. But and I've seen some people say, oh well, Lion-O's tube was cracked and so he aged. But that actually was not portrayed. I mean, that's certainly a logical thing you could come up with, but that was not something they ever actually said in the cartoon. They, like, Jaga said to Lion-O that there was some still aging that happened when they were in the tubes, but they didn't indicate like Lion-O's tube was damaged and therefore he aged more than the others. So I was like, why wasn't Wily Kit and Wily Cat adults like Lion-O when they got to Earth? Devils do no more mini mates. Yeah, and I mean mini mates were started by a different company, Art Asylum, back in early 2000s. They were the ones that actually created that line, but then Diamond Select Toys bought Art Asylum, and so they took over the mini mates, just like with Star Trek. Um, but yeah, whether mini mates ends up somewhere else, I mean that line has had pretty long life to it, so they may just decide to be done with that line. But yeah. Jeremy says, I wonder if Diamond Select Toys will ship their remaining products from orders before now that they are out of business. If there is something, like if there's something that's arrived here, like sitting in a warehouse ready to ship, I would imagine anything like that would end up getting shipped out. I can't tell you if that's the case or if it is, what products those would be. And that's probably something that they're maybe sorting out now. But definitely, if there's something that, was produced and has made it over here into the United States, is sitting in a warehouse just waiting to be shipped out to the retailers to then ship it to you or whatever, I would imagine if there's anything like that out there, that would end up getting released. But anything beyond that, I would suspect would probably just end up having the orders canceled. Still got my Marvel Select Mephisto. I have that one somewhere, though. The legs broke on that one. I also have, I don't know if you can see it back there, but standing next to Galactus is my Marvel Select Watcher figure, which is still, the best Watcher figure that we've gotten from anybody. Hasbro did the cartoon, taller, skinnier version of Watcher, but we've never gotten a Marvel Legend classic Watcher from Hasbro or Toy Biz. So the Marvel Select one is still my go-to Watcher figure. Blackheart was another one, I think, or was that Hasbro? I think that was actually Toy Biz Hasbro. I don't know the name of the studio, but yes, I do believe it was a Japan-based studio that did the Thundercats animation. Automaton wasn't Lion-O in a well. Again, that's what a lot of people will say. But I went back and watched, here recently the pilot episode, and there was no mention of a faulty status tube. The only mention of like Lion-O aging was that Jaga told him that there was still some aging that happened in the tubes, but that doesn't explain why Lion-O aged and Wily Kit and Wily Cat didn't. I think Masters of the Universe lore is better, but the Thundercats had the best animation of the 80s. I will mostly agree with that. The exception is like if you go back and you watch the Transformers movie, and granted it was a movie, not a TV series, but that's still some of my favorite 80s animation, even today. Same with like the GI Joe movie, and there was Strangely enough, if you go back and watch the original Transformer cartoon, if you go watch, I think it's like the final episode where they bring Optimus Prime back to life. I think actually it was a two-parter, but they bring Optimus Prime back to life. Um, and there's the virus, and like they end up painting themselves in gold or something like that. That animation seems to be like the same animation that was used in the movie, which is very different from the animation that you see in the series. I don't know why just that last episode um, had that improved animation, but RoboGeek says, I can bring your comment. I believe Wily Cat were just smaller cats and just treated as well. Again, that was always kind of my initial thought, is they were just like smaller people. But it's funny that like they're treated like kids, like they get grounded, things like that. What are they, like permanent kids or something? Jay, if you could be in charge of any license, what would it be, and who would you want to make? You mean like if I own the license? I don't know. That's a hard one because if I'm being completely honest, I would have to look at it from two different ways. Because again, I assume you're meaning like if I actually own the license and I had toy companies coming to me to want to produce products that they're paying, they're paying me to produce products of that for which I own. So if I got to pick any brand to be like to own essentially, what would it be? And I, again, two ways of looking at it. Which brand do I think would be the most profitable? Meaning, which one would I make the most money from? And from a business perspective, that is definitely something that I would look at, as opposed to which brand would I just like the biggest fan of, or you know, and enjoy on that level. And so I don't know, it's kind of hard to say, but taking it from the just in like my favorite, I mean, it would definitely probably be something like, I mean, obviously, like if I could be like, could have been like George Lucas and had owned the whole Star Wars license that I could have sold billions of dollars to Disney, that probably would have an appeal just for that. But just from a complete toy standpoint, I would say I'd probably go with GI Joe. I don't know. GI Joe has just kind of always been my favorite, and it's kind of and not by like much, because I am a pretty big G1 Transformer fan. I'm a pretty big Star Wars fan, Marvel fan. But I guess if I just had to single one out, I'd go with GI Joe. But on the flip side of that, GI Joe would probably be one of the least profitable, licenses compared to like a Star Wars or even Transformers or something like that. Galaxy Rangers. I I remember the name, but is that with I was gonna say, I'm thinking Braveheart, I think, or Brave Star, I think. Uh, of water, yes. Okay, yeah. I vaguely remember that. I mean, there's a lot of like, I'm not a like a Pixel Dan, and I'm just throwing him out there, but where like was like gung ho into all these obscure '80s lines. Like that's really never been me. I've always been to me, it was always Transformers, GI Joe, and Star Wars were the big three. Those were the three lines I had as a kid that I really had, put a lot of time and energy and had built up big collections as a kid. Again, Thundercats and Masters of the Universe were cartoons that I watched every day when they came on as a kid, but I really never collected the toys, and I can't tell you why per se, other than I think I was more focused on GI Joe and Transformers at that time. But Turtles is a cartoon that I would watch on Saturday mornings. But again, I never had any interest in collecting any of the toys. And I think with Turtles, it's more I was getting older by the time that came out. So I don't know. Obviously a lot of those obscure lines I'm somewhat familiar with, but I didn't it wasn't something I was into really as a kid, because really for me, like I say, it was GI Joe, Transformers. It started with Star Wars. That was like the first major action figure line that I collected as a kid when the first Star Wars movie came out, in the late 70s. That's honestly, I those were the first action figures I think I ever owned. The only thing I remember owning before Star Wars were some Hot Wheel cars. So as a kid, so those was really my first introduction to action figures was Star Wars. But then I got into GI Joe, and that's primarily because of the cartoon, followed by Transformers. And I went back and forth between Transformers and GI Joe. I collected GI Joe. And then I remember, I forget what grade it was, but I ended up selling a lot of my G.I. Joe stuff to some other kid so that I could then go buy Transformer stuff. So, and then I kind of went back and forth. And then as I got into high school and older and started collecting stuff, I think we talked about this last week. It was the Batman '89 movie that really first kind of caught my eye with getting back into action figures. And then Marvel with like the 5-inch Toy Biz stuff, the X-Men animated series, the Spider-Man animated series, all that stuff really kind of got me back into toys. And even because I've always been a huge Star Trek fan too, since I was a kid, starting with the original series, I also really got into Playmates Toys Star Trek figures um, from a collector standpoint when that line originally came out. So I had a lot of a lot of those Playmate Toys Star Trek. And I always hated Power Rangers. I never got into Power Rangers. I couldn't stand the show. I just didn't like the show. I didn't like the style of it. I was obviously older, so that's in large part. I remember taking, this will age me a bit, but I have an older sister who at the time had a very young kid. She's older, again, she's the older sister. So she had a kid, and I took her kid to see the very first Power Ranger movie in the theater, and it was like torture for me having to sit in that theater watching that thing because he was a big Power Ranger fan, the kid, and so, but I've never been into Power Rangers, never really understood the appeal of it, so. Judge Dredd. I had the Star Trek play set back in the day. Which one? There's a couple of different ones over the years, but Playmates at the Next Generation. I didn't actually have that. The Bridge playset from that's actually something I didn't have. I had like I had all of the vehicles. I had the shuttlecraft. I had the Romulan ship. I liked the vehicle. I collected the figures, but I liked the vehicles more than the figures. If you're talking about the '80s, then you're probably that's probably like Mego or something. I hated Power Rangers because I thought it was a Voltron ripoff, only watched because of the Pink Rain. Yeah, I was never really into Voltron either, but I guess it was too. I mean, I know the style of it, and it's from overseas, but that style, like being live action, and then that kind of style of show, like, it just, I don't know, it never really appealed to me. And again, I was older at that point, so I was still watching a lot of the cartoons that would come out, but I wasn't necessarily collecting toys during that stretch of time. Like, I remember when Transformers Generation 2 came out, and I was like, and there was, I don't know if you've ever seen the Transformer Generation 2 cartoon, but all it is the Generation 1 cartoon, and they added in these weird, like, scene segments. That was the only difference. Like, they didn't actually make a new cartoon, they just regurgitated the original one. And then the toys were mostly just repaints of the original toys and stuff. Well, Playmates did do a transporter room. I didn't get that either for some reason. But Playmates was more 90s than 80s, I want to say. There was another company, Galoob or somebody, who did some Star Trek stuff before Playmates did. But I never really collected the Galoob Star Trek stuff. All right, well, I've been rambling. We're over an hour, so I think we're going to call it a day. Just a quick reminder, we need 7 more Action Figure Enthusiast channel members to get to 60, at which point we will do another contest giveaway for $100 store credit to Big Bad Toy Store. Right now, at least last time I checked, we were at 53. So if you think about coming one, link in the video description below. Thanks to everyone who has become Action Figure Enthusiast channel members. I don't know. I'll be back at least one more time this week, I'm sure. Whether it's Wednesday or Friday, I don't know. It'll just depend on what kind of news comes out. It looks like it's going to be another fairly slow month or week for news. Like I said, we do have some new pre-orders for Hasbro coming up at the end of the month, but I don't know when we'll get any reveals for whatever that stuff is. So I have a feeling next week will probably be busier than this week, but probably should at least be able to come up with one more video this week. I'm thinking probably Friday, but we'll see. But again, thank you guys for tuning in today. As always, stay safe out there. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching today's video. Now, if you're new to the channel, please think about hitting that subscribe button. Also hit the bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. For all the latest action figure news, be sure to head over to ToyNewsEye.com, MarvelousNews.com, JediInsider.com, and TFormers.com. And remember, action figures are great,